In the vast sands of northeastern Africa, where the Nile runs deep and the sun scorches the golden earth, there rose a queen who would challenge the might of Rome itself. Her name was Amanirenas, the one-eyed warrior queen of Nubia. And her story is one of fierce resistance, brilliant leadership, and an enduring legacy that defied the greatest empire the world had ever known. It was the 1st century before Christ, and the winds of change were sweeping across the ancient world. Rome, having conquered Egypt under Augustus Caesar, now extended its reach southward. But just beyond Egypt's southern border lay the powerful kingdom of Kush, known to the Romans as Nubia, a black African civilization rich in gold, iron, culture, and pride. Its capital, Meru, was a thriving city of pyramids, palaces, and temples. And at the helm of this kingdom stood a remarkable queen, Amanirenas. Queen Amanirenas was not just a ruler, she was a Candace, a royal title for queens or queen mothers in the Meroitic dynasty. Her position was not ceremonial. In the matrilineal traditions of Kush, Candaces often wielded true political and military power, and Amanirenas proved to be one of the greatest among them. She ruled alongside her husband, King Pteratekis, and after his death, took the reins of power herself. She was known to have lost one of her eyes in battle, a scar she wore not as a weakness, but as a badge of honor. Her people revered her as a symbol of strength and defiance. The trouble began in 30 BCE, when Rome annexed Egypt following the defeat of Cleopatra and Mark Antony. The Romans under Augustus turned Egypt into a province, and their legions pushed further south, threatening the independence of Kush. Roman tax collectors demanded tribute from the Nubians. But Queen Amanirenas had no intention of bowing to the eagle of Rome. For her, sovereignty was not negotiable. Around 25 BCE, Amanirenas struck first, with the Roman governor of Egypt, Publius Petronius, distracted and Rome still consolidating its control over the region. The queen launched a bold and brutal assault. Her forces crossed the border into Roman Egypt, capturing the city of Syene, modern-day Aswan, and Elephantine and Philae. They destroyed statues and symbols of Augustus, even decapitating statues of the emperor and taking his likeness back to Kush as a trophy. One such head was buried beneath the steps of a temple in Meru, so that every time the queen and her people entered, they would trample the image of the Roman emperor underfoot. It was a stunning humiliation for Rome, and the news sent shockwaves through the empire. Augustus, enraged, ordered Petronius to retaliate with full force. Petronius led a counter-invasion deep into Nubian territory, retaking the cities Amanirenas had captured and pushing as far south as Napata, one of the Kushite holy cities. There, he destroyed temples and burned settlements, hoping to teach the Nubians a lesson they would never forget. But Amanirenas did not back down. She rallied her warriors, including the famous archers of Nubia, feared for their deadly accuracy, and launched guerrilla-style attacks on Roman supply lines. The terrain was harsh, the climate unforgiving, and the Romans found themselves in hostile territory, far from their supply bases. The Kushites knew their land and used it to their advantage, harassing the Romans relentlessly. Despite Petronius's early successes, he knew he could not hold the territory. Rome's supply lines were stretched, and Augustus had no interest in launching a prolonged and costly war in the desert lands of Kush. He was more concerned with consolidating his empire than expanding into an arid frontier that promised little reward. So after 3 years of conflict, both sides grew weary. In a rare and remarkable moment in Roman African history, Amanirenas sent diplomats to negotiate peace, not as conquered subjects, but as equals. She refused to kneel, refused to offer tribute, and insisted on terms that respected the sovereignty of her people. And incredibly, Rome agreed. The resulting treaty, signed around 21 BCE, was a diplomatic triumph for Queen Amanirenas. The Romans withdrew their forces north of the First Cataract, abandoned the cities they had seized, and agreed not to collect taxes from Kush. The border was stabilized, and the kingdom of Kush retained its independence. For nearly 300 more years, it would stand proud and free, a beacon of African strength and identity on the Nile. The story of Queen Amanirenas is often overshadowed in Western histories, but in African memory, and increasingly in global historical consciousness, she stands as a towering figure, a one-eyed queen who looked the empire of Rome in the face and refused to blink, a warrior who turned grief into strength and defeat into victory, a leader who fought not for conquest, but for the right of her people to live on their land, under their laws, and in their freedom.